Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I call the honourable member Alan Peachy.
Speaking to part 4 of the bill, I reflect for a moment on the comment to the last speaker, and I have to say that the only bit of merit in his speech was the way he opened his second call when he said, in effect, he shouldn't have taken it. Because, Mr. Chairman, it's time that this nonsense stopped. There is support across the House for this bill. And as chairman of the Select Committee that chaired the hearings into the bill, I think that it is time that I, at least on behalf of this side of the House, apologise to the Royal Society for the way that this piece of legislation that is very, very important to society is being made a farce by the tactics of the opposition. Now, what the opposition are trying to do, Mr. Chairman, what the opposition are trying to do is to delay debate on the freedom of association.
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. That is a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Order. The honourable member Rajan Prasad. Point of order.
I fail to see how the member is addressing clause 4 of the bill in anything he said so far, Mr. Chairman.
No. The member has a few minutes to respond to any debate from the other side. I call the honourable member Alan Peachy.
Thank you, Mr.
And he should come to the point.
Chairman, and I am indeed trying to respond to the comments that have been made by the opposition on part 4. The difficulty is, of course, that there is actually very little to respond to. So what I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Royal Society and this side of the House, is to appeal to the opposition to stop this nonsense. $31,000 an hour. $31,000 an hour. It is costing the taxpayer, while the opposition unnecessarily delay progress of this bill, a bill that there is agreement across the House should be passed. The Royal Society has asked for it to be passed, and it is incumbent on this House to do that in a timely and diligent matter. And all the opposition is doing in prolonging the debate on part 4 and prolonging the debate generally on this bill is avoiding confronting the issues around the Freedom of Association Bill. And I think that that approach brings no credit to that party at all. And I would say to the member in the chair, who has spoken on part 4 endlessly, to live up to his responsibilities as the sponsor of the bill. He has that responsibility, that honour, as the member for Wellington Central. And it will not be lost on his constituents that he is disabusing that responsibility with a smirk on his face because of a greater agenda on the part of the Labor Party. And that brings no credit at all to that member. And I would appeal to that member to take a moment to reflect on the comments he's made on part 4, to reflect on the strategy that is being used, and question whether he is meeting his responsibilities to his constituents as the member sponsoring this bill. I heard the junior opposition whip shouting at me a moment ago, and I would say to that whip, exercise some responsibility and some leadership and some control over your team, over the opposition, because the behaviour of the opposition in the debate over Clause 4, as in other aspects of this debate, actually brings no credit to this House and even less credit to the Labor Party.
I call the Honourable Parakura Horomia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have much pride in rising in this House of democracy and debate.
That's right.
And I certainly want to put that previous speaker's notions to rest. I've just watched somebody who's ABC'd pupils over generations through the classroom. And this is a serious bill, as my learned friend of Central Wellington has pointed out. And I stand and I wonder when I listen to the debate between those sciences that were supposed to be exact and only those sciences recognised through research and whatever else, and the other part suggested as the humanities that has been put aside. I would be the most uneducated Minister of Education I think this House has had, because I got evicted from school at 16. But what I learned over the last 9 years, being one of the longest serving Ministers of Education in this House, was the snobbery that pervades in relation to unreal differentiation between the humanities and those supposed sciences. You see, when Captain Cook came here, he used cartology. What is that? What do you call it? Cartography, that's right. He used cartography. He'd put the line up, he'd take the angle, and he'd strike it on research, science, and proof. And yet he didn't know where he was going. He didn't know where he was going. Generations before that, my ancestors used their will, their heart, and the stars, and they got there. So, and back again, and came back again. So I think there's been a fair bit of snobbery by people like that last speaker who have tried to harbinger and keep isolated those sciences. And I think this is a wonderful, great opportunity about merging this and recognising things. Because when I went to school, you know, we learned about Shakespeare. There'd be talk about a pound of flesh. There'd be a talk about Puck coming down in the midnight or some damn thing. And I was always astounded, as a Māori, living in a Māori environment, I was always astounded, why the hell are we thrust into this long breadth learning about somebody who lived in Italy or wrote these stanzas and whatever else, and we had great stories of our own. So marginalisation, I believe, in the sense of education progress, came out of this isolation. And what has survived? What has survived? What has survived? Italian songs and stanzas are 4,000 years old. Arts. You go into the Lure and you look around, gee, bigger than the Tolaga Bay Community Hall, and you have a look at things, and you wonder, or you stand in front of Mona Lisa, and the eyes follow you, and you wonder, what great stuff. But it's not science, because it's humanities. Yet all these mugs come over here, and they pay money to go look at it. In 1987, the Royal Society was started a long time ago. So that's why, with respect, we need to give this debate, time. In 1856, the Maori chiefs went to Pukawa and decided that they would mirror these great scientists, that they would get together collectively, and they would form things not too dissimilar to the king, and that everything would be put right. But what they missed, and what the old professors, Mr. Hodgson's ancestors, kept in their hip pocket, was this great thing about science. You know, at the end of the day, I want to commend the member in the seat for his effort in getting this up and getting general agreement across the House. You know, it's like this great statement about this person who's about to inflict on us a lot of doom and gloom in about 2 hours and 54 minutes, because that's budget day. That's budget day. I'm not too sure what science they've used, but the nice-to-haves like psychology, English, literature, arts and Māori, whoever have been the past fools who have believed that they don't have a place in any society, especially the Royal Society, because that's what was mirrored by our people. It's like wine tasting, you know? There's a science of fermentation, and there is an exactness about prolonging it over a period of time so you quip the taste of the wine. But then you get pissed if you drink too much of it, or you get a bit, you get a bit wayward. Sorry, Mr. Chair. You get a bit wayward if you drink too much. Now, which is the right science? The one that is researched and says you ferment the grapes, you plant them, you try to avoid botrytis, you try to keep the sugar levels up, or the one that makes you happy? Which is the right, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair?
I call the Honourable Parakura.
Which is right? So I want to say to Mr. Peachy, there is a very, very serious case for merging these great studies and sciences, because we've got to capture our young people's mindsets in relation to how they should be part of the Royal Society, how they should ensure that they are more than inspired, that they understand. Because if you're a young Māori sitting in Mr. Brown's biology class in Tolaga Bay, and there's two things you like, is the Bunsen burner, because you can burn something, and the other thing is maybe the subject on unicellular animals, like paramecium and amoeba. Now, you're fascinated because this is unlearned stuff. This is stuff, outside of sciences. You are attracted because you learn that they breed, and the sexuality is through the central cell splitting. It is surrounded by cilia, fine hairs. And then you understand that there are these two little creatures that are unicellular things that are flying around in the air somewhere. And you start to sit down with your mates and say, I wonder how we could trap some. Pardon? Pardon? Into our... Well, that's another point about this. That's another point. The Māori language is not recognised. Shame on you, shame on the people who kept it out. Mr. Chair?
Not shame on me.
Mr. Chair, it's like being in Italy and their language put under the mat. It's like being in Greece and their language put under the mat. Why aren't these humanities important? There is only one place where the Māori language is really important. It is here. Why? Because the Māoris are not going away. And Captain Cook's prodigy and all of those people who came from Australia, like my ancestors, the Rutherfords, they got a lot to answer for. They got a lot to answer for at the end of the day. And what we are doing here in fine community spirit is ensuring that these two great functions emerged and that neither nor. It's like this tax take at the moment. What is about giving tax favours to the more well-off when those people at the bottom suffer? It's like this not recognising the humanities. If you want to, disconnect from the humanities, then let me tell the Scots, get rid of their bagpipe. Take those skirts off. To the Irish, stop drinking green beer. Yeah, that's right. To the English, stop going to big weddings. All of those things. So, Mr. Chair, stop doing that sort of stuff. So this has been a whole lot of nonsense. I'm really, really proud of my colleague for bringing this together, for making history and ensuring that simple people like me who were evicted from school at 16 will have a chance, or my grandchildren will have a chance to learn and to become great scholars and not have to worry whether they're in the humanities or they're in the true sciences. And that, if you're going to say that everything has to be stood up and the impact and outcomes are geared on research and information, then stop feeling good. Then stop believing that you can do things. Stop dreaming. Because what is that? Is that humanities or is it the science? And David Carter he's gone. The Minister of Farming and that. So we have this great science that says if you put so many tons of urea on the paddock, the grass will grow. We have this science that says if you pour copper on the cattle, they will survive better and they will get more heavier. But at the same time, the cows piss in the paddock, it leaches into the river, it turns our rivers into dirty, uninhabitable environments, Mr. Speaker, and that's through science. But it's only people's feeling to ensure that we keep things green and clean that will correct that, because nobody puts the effort into the science that need to correct that. So I'm a strong supporter of the humanities. I'm not worried like those people who are culturalists, who got no culture, who bastardise everybody else's dreams and joys and sit on that side of the house. And that member there, he's scarfing off. He's not a bad bloke, though. He's not a bad bloke. Simon Power's been a great man. He has run the justice portfolio with an iron hand, and he's used science, and he's measured everything, and he's ensured that the countables are counted, but he's used his heart. He has a heart, the Simon Power. I'm trying to get him in trouble with his leader. He's got a good heart, and that's the truth. That's why Paula Bennett is sitting next to him. She's trying to get the waves from him to feel about the heart.
Wonderful debate.
I call the honourable member